at Ben Vereen. Oh, look at these beautiful women. I was able to see that live and living color. Just these kings, these gods that shined and glowed and sparkled like me. and we're celebrating themselves and rooted in themselves. I was overwhelmed. And again, that white, the choice to put you in, I mean, I see it like it was yesterday. So that absolutely, that's one where I feel like there's certain things I'm not taking with me when we come back. And that is one show, that is one experience that I will always take with me as a reminder of, you can acknowledge all parts of people, and you can be respectful, and you can be artful, and you can let people fly and present kings and queens in that way. And it was stunning. It was stunning.
And then we had to become multi-hyphenate artists and cut it to 3 minutes and 20 seconds to film it for the Tonys. Then we had to kind of smush that whole show into 3 minutes and 20 seconds, which is generally the allotted time for the best musical nominees. And we all became multi-hyphenate artists as we navigated how to film it.
This is such a great segue to even talking about After Midnight, because within After Midnight, we had singers, dancers, hip hoppers, ballet dancers. It truly talk about wearing so many different hats. And it's something we talk a lot about at Foster's is how do we view people as artists, maybe not just as an actor, not just as certain things. And so kind of the first question I wanted to throw to the group today is, we were able to hear so much about what you've done, and all of you wear so many hats. And I would say never have been confined to any kind of square box or whatever you want to call it. Is that an intentional decision, or was that something that your art just led you to? Yeah, Warren, please.
Is it just, for me, I got to say, it's probably just necessity. It's probably just, it's born out of survival. Because if I can't do one thing, then I got to do something else. And so often, much of what I do, I've just learned as I've gone along. I've kept my eyes and ears open and my mouth shut, and I've tried to learn from the best people. For me, I feel like it's always been necessity, and I always think it's just storytellers. I think we're all, on some level, we're all storytellers, and the story just, it comes out, and sometimes it comes out on TV, and sometimes it comes out on film, and sometimes it comes out in spoken words. Daniel J. Watts is a brilliant example of a genius dancer who just happens to be able to express himself through this glorious poetry, as well as through his feet, and as well as through song. I think it just comes out. I think if you've got a story to tell, I think it finds its way to be told.
I would actually say, just to push back a little bit, Warren, I don't think everybody can do that. I think that's what makes artists, the keeper of humanity in a certain way. I think that maybe there's an innate way of that, but artists are able to express that in different ways, I think, than other people will. And that's what makes us artists in a certain way. Karine, how about you? Again, you wear so many hats. What was that born out of? What was that experience for you?
I think it was love, like the love of expression. Like it was first the feeling that I have about certain thing, and finding a way for it to reach someone else, and knowing that by doing this, I get to maybe support another human being. So I realized early on, and I think it was when I was in America, because when I first came, I was raised more around, dancing. You do ballet, not, we didn't have modern, we had jazz back in France. In Africa, it was more, whatever you could do, just move the body, feel good. So by the time I came here, I think I had a dream to be in the elite company, but I realized that my dream was maybe too ambitious. But what thing that came up was that, but I love what I do. I love it so much. Like, how can I continue to do it no matter what? Like, no matter if they pick me for this, but maybe, but wait, if you were to do a commercial, you kind of touch the same people in essence. Oh, let me see if I can do musical theater. Like, so I touch another group of people and I get to continue to do what I love. And that love to me, I don't even know if it's passion as much as it is love. It's just like, this is where I am the most, literally the most alive, like the most.
What do you think about when you dance? What goes through your head when you're dancing? I'm so curious because you're so interesting to watch. And there's always something going on. There's always something behind the eyes. There's always a something. There's always a story or a something. I'm so curious if do you have a secret way of being magical that we don't know?
I follow you, Warren. That's the best thing I can do. No, you know what I love. Okay, one thing that I love is partnering.
Mhm.
It's collaboration. It's the act of being transformed because of another human being or another element. So I get to get out of my own way and become another entity. So
Mm.
if I am doing a duet, then I know that person and me are going to create this other thing. If I am in the room with you, Warren, and even if it's a solo, but I'm doing a duet with you, with
Mm.
your vision, with the music. So so it's like becoming less of me and more of something else that I get to discover what that is. And that to me is like a gift.
That's why the partnering is so strong, because you love having a scene. You love having a scene partner, whether it's you and me, or whether it's you and, hey, what was that thing you did on So You Think You Can Dance? Was it with Keith Roberts?
Keith
And it
Roberts,
was Sinatra. That's life or
Sinatra,
something.
yeah, that's
And what
life.
is it called?
It was
That's life.
That's life.
That's for
It's
those
from
people who are tuning into this. That's worth a watch. Is Karine? So You Think You Can Dance? That's life. It is glorious, dangerous, wonderful partnering. And when you watch it, you'll see what Ahmad was talking about when Karine just launches herself, and you better be ready to catch her. It's so wonderful. That's worth a watch.
there
And
is
were you aware of cameras, Cherie, when you were doing that? So when you were filming something like that, your multi-hyphenate artist, did you know which camera you were on? Did you know how it was being
I
captured?
asked.
Yeah.
I actually asked because I felt like they were giving us a disservice to not let us know who was where and why. And because I was in a position where I could ask, I went and asked. And I was like, please tell me exactly so I can serve the storyline to you. Because otherwise, we're not in the show. You got to tell me where you are. Where's the camera? I mean, like,
And Ahmad, I mean, maybe you can talk about Fosse Verdon a little bit, because that must have been a crazy, amazing experience, and what was that like in translation? What was that like for you? How aware were you of the camera?
Yeah, I was very aware. I was lucky in that they knew that I hadn't had much TV film experience. And with Tommy Kail at the helm and, Lackmore, all of those guys who knew me from theater knew to say, hey, um, Susie Meisner, this is how it's going to be shot. So they were already coaching me in the rehearsals, which was so helpful for me rather than just throwing me in and saying swim. They were saying, this is how it's going to be shot. This is kind of how to think of it, so that like you said, I was able to keep questioning. Like I was given that space to say, I don't really know, what I need to be doing in this time. Can I ask you where this is going to be? And that helped me so much. Again, so like you said, to be able to tell that story exactly the way they wanted. So I didn't waste time. I didn't want to waste anybody's time. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So tell me where to go. I can do that, and I'll bring myself to that. But if you tell me technically where I need to be lining up, I can fly. So
I had an amazing experience with Hugh directing his show. I had an 8 live camera feed. So in this giant arena tour, I was also in charge of 8 live cameras. 2 of them, I think, were RoboCams. It was a whole thing. And, Hugh being a massive movie star and me being a novice with a camera, I just went one day and I said, is there anything I need to know about the way I'm looking at you? Do I need you from a certain side? Do you have a better angle? And he was like, no, honestly, Wazza, you can put the camera wherever you want. Just don't shoot up my nose. And that was all he said. And I was left with a 2-hour show, and an 8 live camera feed in a 20,000 seat arena, and just to figure it out.
But Warren, one thing that I have learned from that you taught me and that you do really well is you know a lot more than you give yourself credit. Because when we're sitting behind that table at a tech rehearsal, you taught me that you have to speak their language. You need to understand how to speak lighting designer. You need to know how to speak costume designer. A circle and a half. You don't do a Broadway show without a circle and a half dress. You learn how to, but that is part of, I would say, your multi-hyphenate is that you knew that you being in charge of the show, in helm of the show, you had to be multi-hyphenate to speak their language, to communicate things more clearly.
I think it's part and parcel of what we do, actually. Certainly of what I do in the last few years. Cameras have been in the room much more, whether it's video content, LED. For Radio City, I directed the Spring Spectacular, which was a $150 million production. And we had cameras and we had LED, but it was really a learning curve for me to learn how to put the choreography with the video content. And actually that came out later in Havana, that we all did, that I was able to kind of make these beautiful moving pictures because I'd had a year at Radio City trying to figure out how to work the choreography with the video content so it was pleasing somehow.
I think you had to, nowadays, every artist has got to be okay with adding another element to what they usually know. I think every people nowadays, but I think artists in general, to be okay with this is a new element, this is a new time. And today I'm very curious to see what is Broadway will look like when we are moving out of where we are right now, because I truly trust that we all had to learn something very different. We all have to be very uncomfortable. And in that uncomfortableness, there is the element of finding this new balance. Like, I would not want to see, a regular Broadway show after this moment. I mean, a new Broadway show that just becomes like an old Broadway show. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, I think that as the humanity is in need of us continuously evolving as artists, and to see how do we incorporate those new things and yet bringing it back to intimacy, because we've missed intimacy. What
Yeah.
are those things? I don't know if that
I-
brings something to you.
I like watching people too. I mean, Aaron Sorkin is a really interesting example of a genius writer who is now directing movies. Or Lin-Manuel, right? Lin-Manuel is a brilliant example. Now he's directing movies. It's really interesting. And that's a perfect example of a multi-hyphenate artist. It's like these people are genius storytellers at the top of their game, and they're able to somehow learn and translate and keep moving and try something else. And they seem to me, from an outsider's point of view, they seem very, very open to just doing and learning, and they have strong opinions and strong points of view. And I look forward to a world full of more of that.
Would you be interested, Warren, to do any movies? Is this something that you would love?
Sure, I think so. I mean,
Warren.
I'd certainly try. I mean, I'd probably go to film school a bit and try and learn secretly what I was doing before I did it. But I've done enough TV now to be okay in that arena. Feature film, I don't know. It seems like a lot of money and a lot of pressure for me. And I also do think, and this is completely separate than, this is not hyphenate at all. This is very focused. I think about people like Hal Prince. And Hal Prince dedicated his life to one beautiful art form. And I sometimes think to myself, oh, what's wrong with that too? It's like making a beautiful life in one particular field. I think I look with great admiration at Hal's career. And Jerry Robbins was the ballet and Broadway. He made one movie in his life. Jerry Robbins made one movie. He got fired from that movie, and he won an Academy Award for that movie. And it was the only movie he made, and it was called West Side Story.
I have a question for you, Warren.
This hyphenate thing is really interesting.
But I wonder, you're $150 million production you're at the helm of. And it's something where you're bringing film into it and you're saying you'd go to film school, but at the same time you did that. So you've done so many things. So I wonder, how do you give yourself elbow room and space when the stakes are that high to still say, I'm figuring this out? Like where does that live? Like how do you find the confidence and the strength?
I think it's interesting. I think that's being a good leader is being able to say, I don't know the answer. I think that is such an incredibly strong way of leading because it also opens the door for everybody in the room to help solve the problem. If I come in knowing all the answers, oh my God, that is a lonely place to create from. But if some brilliant dancer or brilliant actor asks me, what is the blah, 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 and I'm strong enough and secure enough to say, actually, I don't know, but let's figure it out. It's one of my favorite lessons about being a leader is being strong enough and secure enough to not know the answer or to walk in a room and not know everything, not know 100% of the show. Because I believe in that kind of divine intervention. I believe in leaving some things undone so you can have some accidents and you can have some input from the other talent in the room. Otherwise, I just think it's lonely and you should all just come to my house and I'll put on a show for you. I don't know if I'd sell any tickets.
You started as like you didn't start writing right out of the gate. You were right. You were just dancing, correct? So I really want to know from that to now penning and directing and choreographing. I mean, that is the multi-hyphenate. Like, how do how that happens and building your own portfolio in that way? And
Jason knows too, because this is really born of necessity. This is true necessity. Is the writing has always just been necessity. Like if I know what the character should say and I know what I need out of the scene and I know what I need out of this moment, sometimes it's easier for me just to like, it's this, say this. And even the Tonys, I mean, we had a very, in our cone of silence where we don't share this on the internet, we had a very interesting experience with the Tonys that I tried to pitch an idea and I tried to explain it, but ultimately the only way to pitch this idea was to write it down. So I wrote it down as a kind of like working draft. And we dealt with this working draft and we dealt with this working draft. And then Jason and I were sat on Tony night watching the Tonys and the opening number is the working draft that I did. It never changed. It just didn't change. So I wrote the opening to the Tonys one year, completely by accident. I just was pitching an idea and I had a clear thought about what it should be. It should be this kind of sing-along. It should be a sing-along. And that's what it ended up being. But that's no talent. That's absolutely no talent. It's just necessity. Yeah. And I knew the people I was writing for as well. I knew them quite well.
You know what's interesting, and having experienced that creative process with you, Warren, is you've been practicing that though for years. Like when we would sit down, you would say it was a dance, and you would say, how would you direct that? How would you light that? How would you so you've been practiced, like it's been part of your creative process, has been actually actively practicing that, because you're thinking beyond just what is in front of you. There's like you're 7 steps beyond a falafel change or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever that is. It's been fascinating for me to experience and watch and learn from, because that to me is like the multi-hyphenate, is you practice how to be multi-hyphenate in your creative process.
I also wrote a terrible children's book that will never ever be published. And that was I went right off the highway and I like wrote a children's book, and I shouldn't really be a writer. I shouldn't. I should be a really good storyteller.
But you know what, Warren? Well, I feel that when we do new things and new endeavor, like I remember wanting to really work at my voice, and I was like, Karine, you have to work at your voice. You just don't do it. And I went to take class in with this incredible gentleman who is no longer with us today. What's his name? I forget. He was one of those top of the line voice teachers. And I remember going there, and every time I will go, I will take myself down. As I walked into the room, I will be like, oh my God, here we go. 1 hour or disaster. Here we go. 1 hour. And then finally, maybe 2 times it happened like this. And then finally I was like, that is not even fair. What are you doing to yourself? Like, you give yourself 1 year, there will be no judgment. You make conscious decision that when you walk in the room, there'll be no judgment, and you just do the work. Just do the work. But a lot of time, we don't even give ourselves the chance to just do the work. We want the results, and we want to, we don't have that patience with, because we have achieved a certain thing in a certain place, and we esteem that everything else should be at the same level, but it's not. I'm sure you're an amazing writer. I mean, or anybody here can be directing. However, take the time, like actually take yourself in the room, open yourself up, be vulnerable enough, show up for a full year. Don't ask questions, just do the work. Do
Yeah.
the work. That's the process. Do the work,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's really great. I also want to say that I love being a student. Like, I'm a student of lighting design, and I'm a student of cameras, and I'm a student of photography, and I'm a student of piano. Like, I sit and I try and do my Hanon, I do my scales every day, and my left hand is not coordinated with my right at all. But I do like learning things, and I was like that at school too. I was curious in lots of directions. I think that's helped a lot in what we all do, is that kind of curiosity, that creative, artistic curiosity that's not just curious about choreography, or not just curious about blocking or acting. It's curious in lots of different ways. That's what I love about what Foster's is doing too. It's like you're literally cultivating curiosity. You're encouraging curiosity in many, many, many different directions. And I think it's really, really inspiring. I wish Foster's had been around 20 years ago. Yeah, I would have been first on that list. I would have been first to say, I need a box, and I need some things, and I definitely need a retreat. And I'm not paying for it. And I can't. I would have been the first, but that's why an organization like this is so necessary, because it's necessary for student voices and beginning voices, as well as well-established voices. There has to be places like this for people to go. And if I wanted to develop my writing skills, I would absolutely be here. I would absolutely sign up and just try and tell a story through the spoken word for a second. It's a very important endeavor that the three of you have undertaken.
I had a talk with, oh, sorry, Jason.
No, go for it, Karine. Go for it.
I had a talk with Donald Byrd, who is, do you guys know Donald Byrd? Oh, one of my favorite. He choreographed a great deal for the Ailey company. He's now in Seattle or somewhere, I can't remember. He's on the west coast. Anyways, I was telling him about choreography and how I felt shy about my choreography, and he looked at me and he was like, you just have to be willing to be horrible at it. Just be okay being the worst. Just fail. Just fail. And it was such a moment of like a release. I was like, oh, what a concept. I can just fall apart.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant advice. It's brilliant. And I have a similar thing, and I call it make a mark. It's all it's called, make a mark. So all I have to do when I go in the studio is like, make a mark. I just have to make a mark on the canvas. I have to do a step. I have to do a phrase. I have to string together an idea. That's all I have to do in that day. And then the next day I go and I make that mark better. And then the next day I go and I make it better. But if you're always in your head, you're always trying to figure out how to make a masterpiece in one stroke. For me, I'm not able to do that. I have to make my work in many marks and many revisions and many years of just making a mark. So I think it's brilliant advice, for anyone that's curious about how actually to get started. Just make a mark. Go in the street, take out your iPhone and film something. Make a mark, and then the next day go make it better, and then the next day go make it better. And that could be a painting, it could be a piano, it could be a monologue, it could be a TV show that you're producing. It could be anything, but that's one of the things that I live by, is like, oh God, Warren, get out of bed and just make a mark. Go to Ripley Greer and make a mark, and that's it. And then the next day, make it better.
Wow. Ooh, I felt that. Yeah. Like not,
Interesting, right, Ahmad?
not,
It's
uh,
interesting.
not thinking the masterpiece. That's so, ooh,
It's so
it
overwhelming.
doesn't have to be a masterpiece your first time around, honey.
No, it just has to be a little smudge. It just has to be a smudgy thing. Because then the next day, and also you don't always know what it is. Like it's just a smudgy chasse, pas de bourrée, and then the next day it turns into something else.
Yeah.
But I think that gives you the freedom to be able to create, and that speaks to multi-hyphenate as well. It's like if you don't know anything about writing a book, then just type some words. If you don't know anything about filming a TV show, then film some things and figure it out and find. I mean, that's the other thing is find your own language. That's something that I struggle with all the time. Is that we so often walk in other people's shoes. We so often. I'm in the shoes of Bob Fosse or in the shoes of Jerome Robbins or oh my God, or Michael Bennett, and they're just, or Gower Champion. They're such huge shoes to fill. And for all of us, right? And you're in the shoes of Ben Vereen or in the shoes of Sammy Davis Jr. It's like, these are massive shoes. But then I've started more recently to think like, well, what does Warren think about this? What are Warren's words? What are Warren's phrases? What are the things that Warren believes in? And I've started to be stricter in my creation. Nothing you've seen before, nothing you've done before. Nothing I've seen before and nothing I've done before. And I've been really kind of crazy in my pre-production and crazy in my process about it. I've been crazily strict with myself because I'm trying desperately to find my words. You know, and Instagram is a wonderful place, but it's really easy to repost all of those quotes that someone else has typed and someone else made look pretty, and you just kind of you just repost them and it just goes round and round. So I'm trying in this kind of quiet time on Broadway to just figure out what my words are. What are my personal beliefs? What are the things that I believe in as an artist? What are the things that what's my religion? It's interesting.
And will that change? Sorry,
Yeah.
adding,
Yes.
but will that change the way you work then coming back? You know, like
Yeah.
how will you take all of that with you into a process when we're back with the producers, the theater, the expectations that this is the way it has to be? Like how, you know
I
what I
think
mean?
I think it's like Star Wars. I think you just got to stop that room from closing in. I think you just got to keep it outside. I think you got to keep all those voices outside. And Jason knows this with me too. Is like I quite often need a buffer, and I'll put Jason between the producer and me, or I'll put Jason between the person who's got notes for me, and he just keeps them away until I've finished my thought.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always about that. It's about creating space for success, and putting yourself in a position where you can succeed. Don't constantly put yourself in positions where you can't succeed, because it's not good for your heart, not good for your soul. So when we come back, if I can try and just keep that space, there'll be more space for my beliefs, I think, and I'll be able to hold steadier. And I'm much older than all of you, so I get that thing of age. There is that thing of age of like, oh, I've done this before. I've been in this situation before. And this is the day where I just need to say no and hold my ground. And if I need another day to work on this number, I just need to take another day. I think, we all give up space so easily. We all bow our heads so easily. We also say yes so easily. But actually in my old age, I'm learning to say no. And there is a power. I wish I'd known about it. Jason, you could have emailed me and just said, like, stop saying yes to everybody. Stop being such a pushover. But it's really interesting. This time is really teaching me my own beliefs.
But
And I
Warren,
think it's going to change me when we're back.
you bringing to me something that saying no. This is something that I am learning as well, because it's saying yes to something else, and that yes that we want to say to something else is actually more important for us to go there. I bet you when we coming, I mean, whenever that is that we come back, and while we are not back yet, I will say that is because we are not yet rooted completely into our new way. And it won't I trust that the universe is on our side, actually, to not open right now until people that have made that switch, whatever switch needed to happen, that pivot, that change, it's not because the world opens up that we go back into 2019. That will mean that 2020 was for nothing. I feel that 2020 was probably one of the most important year in history for our generation that were still alive, and we get to live through this and come back with the perspective of 2020 having passed it. So rooted now into 2020's lesson, where we can actually go like this in those doors. We actually start that way. We don't even invite anything in. It's like, no, this is where it's going. You know,
I
that
think
whole,
there's going to be a gratitude too. I know that me personally, you know, for 20 years, I really took for granted. I really took for granted those 14 Broadway shows, and I took for granted being able to go to Pearl Studios, or I took for granted a room full of talented, inspired dancers. I really took it for granted. I really never even thought about it because it was my everyday, it was my normal. And I have to say, after being away from it for a year, I will never, ever take any of it for granted, ever, ever, ever again. It is a privilege. It is a privilege and an honor to be part of this business and to be part of this community. And it's something that I'll really come back with very strongly, is that kind of just deep, deep gratitude for us, for this generation to be the gatekeepers for a minute, because soon it will be someone else's turn. And I hope they learn to be as grateful as we all are.
I think that's so profound, and Warren, so many things that you have said so eloquently tonight are really the foundation of what Foster's truly believes and what we strive to do. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom, your thoughts, your artistry, truly your artistry with everybody tonight, because I can speak for myself. I know it has profoundly changed my life. And I think I will speak for Ahmad and Karine, said it has changed their lives as well. So coming and sharing that with us tonight, I'm beyond grateful, and Foster's is beyond grateful for you sharing that with everybody. So thank you for being with us tonight.
I love it. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to support in any which way I can. Can't wait for next week. What are we talking about?
Well, as we wrap up here, again, thank you, Warren, thank you, Karine, thank you, Ahmad. Everybody at home, I will put in the chat, that is the same YouTube, but our website is www.fostersresidency.org. You can go there to make a tax-deductible donation, or you can also Venmo. Again, at Foster's Residency is our Venmo. If you enjoyed tonight, $1, $2, $3, literally there's nothing too small as we look into funding all of our programs for the year. And also make sure to check out www.fostersresidency.org for all of our announcements coming up. There will be a new Foster's Forum at the end of every single month. I know Ahmad already has something in the plans for next month that we're really, really excited about. So, Karine, were you about to say something?
where can people go and see any kind of work from Warren Carlyle? Where would they go?
Oh, well, number one, what you could do is you could rewatch this Foster's Forums by going to our website, where Warren will have his own page there. But I can tell you there's tons of stuff on YouTube as well. Just if you YouTube Warren Carlyle Broadway, then please, there's plenty of
library. You know, Lincoln Center Library is a really good resource too. The Library of Theatre and Television Archive, whatever that wonderful place is, it's right there, and that's what I mean. I find myself there often. It's a really great resource if you want to watch any Broadway shows, please, and not just the ones that we've done.
And we had Parker just put in the chat too. Check out Broadway HD. There's a lot of shows that Warren has done on Broadway HD as well. It's a great place, a great resource to check that out as well. Warren, Karine, Ahmad, I thank you all for being with us tonight. What a really, really great evening. And I wish you all a beautiful 2021 as we continue to create our art.
Thank you all.
Love you,
Venmo,
love you so much.
Foster's residency, right? Venmo.
Venmo. That's it.
And if you know the person that won that Powerball, send them to us.
Bye, everyone.
Karine, I
Have a
love
great night.
you.
You.
Thank you, everybody at home. Have a great night.
Bye.